Kyrie Jesu Domine, dona eis requiem.
All right, 5-minute guy recommended I do a fun video on games, on my hobbies and stuff. So hat tip to the 5-minute guy, because we're not going to talk about Dominion, which probably is my favorite board game, card game of all time, but instead we're really going to start with a hobby that probably got me into gaming as a whole, and that is this game here. And this is an old RPG from the 80s that I picked up. That's a new book because the old book fell apart. Picked up, I want to say Christmas of 1981. It was my sophomore year in high school. I'd seen the college guys playing D&D and was interested in that. And my dad went to the hobby shop with me and saw a whole rack of D&D stuff that was out there, and then just saw this one little book in a box, everything you need in the complete system. And he thought, well, why don't you just buy that instead? So it's an alternative to D&D, fantasy role-playing game. And I started in 1981. It says 80, 81, 82. Yeah, it would have been 81 if I really think right. It's hard for me to keep track. But it was my sophomore year at high school. And ever since then, I've been gaming on and off. RPGs, board games, card games. Of course, I like video games. You should have a hobby. If you are a person who suffers from boredom, then you need to wake up to life. There are plenty of things to do in life, good or otherwise, things that are kind of pointless. I mean, let's be honest, games are just games. They're nothing serious, although I would argue that RPGs do a good job of nourishing the fact that we as human beings are narrative creatures. We come to understand ourselves through stories. You know, the whole Joseph Campbell thing about myth. RPGs kind of play into that, especially if you're doing your typical heroic myth, where your players are playing heroes and trying to right wrongs in the world or restore something. You know, do you have to worry about them becoming murder hobos? Of course, because sometimes you get adolescent players, or they stay in that mindset later into life, and all they ever do is running around killing things and taking their stuff, which is a pejorative way of looking at D&D, even though there's a lot of truth to that. Kill things and take their stuff. Usually it's monsters. You're not burning down the villages and things like that. They don't have anything to take anyway. But it's a fun little game. It all depends on the tone of the table. Can it bring out imbalanced people? Of course it can. Those people were imbalanced before they ever played D&D or any other games, but those games can highlight characteristic problems or personality problems. But you know, it all focuses around imagination and then a set of dice. These were the dice for Dragon Quest. They are percentile dice, 2 10-siders. So you use the red for the first number and the white for the second. Most people are more familiar with this, the old 20-sider that you use with D&D to make all your decisions. But that adds the element of luck in the game when you try to do X. Back then, I caught some of the Satanic Panic. If you don't know what that is, you got to look it up. There was a whole Tom Hanks made-for-TV movie about it, where people were taking it too seriously. But it was really just an absurd moral panic. They should have been more worried about the individuals rather than the game. Does the game involve evil? Yeah, of course. I mean, you could play an evil character if you wanted, if everybody at the table agreed to it. If you're a dungeon master, game master, or storyteller agreed that an evil story would be fun to play. For the most part, it's not. I mean, one of the things you find out with evil is lying, betrayal, cruelty. They're really not fun things. That might be fun temporarily if you have felt powerless in life or put upon. But for the most part, they're not satisfying to play in the long run. And the biggest thing is they're not conductive to a group. They don't breed good group dynamics. It's the whole nature of how sin works. Sin does not create communion. Sin destroys communion, erodes fellowship. The only fellowship you have with sin is fear. Fear and longing for power are probably the two things. But anyway, back to the game, because it's not a... Oh, what crap, it's already over. I'll give you a part 2 later.